The world Michael Carter had built for himself was solid, stable, at least, that's what he believed. A good job, a comfortable home, and, most importantly, a loving family. Jessica, his wife of 12 years, was everything he had ever wanted, smart, funny, and devoted. Their 2 kids, Ethan 10 and Lily 6, were his pride and joy. And then there was Linda, his mother, still energetic and youthful for her age, always ready to lend a hand. It was the kind of life that men dreamed of. Linda was at the house often, helping with the kids while Michael worked long hours as an engineer. He never questioned it. Why would he? It was normal. His mother was simply a hands-on grandma, and Jessica was grateful for the extra help. But then, one night, Ethan shattered his reality in just one sentence. Michael had just finished tucking his son in, smoothing out the covers like he always did. The soft glow of the nightlight cast long shadows on the walls. That's when Ethan looked up at him and asked, "Dad, is it normal for moms and grandmas to kiss like you and Mom do?" The room went silent. Michael felt the air leave his lungs, his fingers freezing mid-motion on the blanket. "What?" he asked, his voice unnaturally calm. Ethan hesitated, like he wasn't sure if he had done something wrong. "I mean, like, kissing. Like you kiss Mom when you come home from work." Michael forced a chuckle, trying to hide the sudden unease creeping up his spine. Kids misunderstood things all the time. Maybe Ethan had seen Linda kiss Jessica on the cheek and exaggerated it in his mind. "Buddy," Michael said, ruffling his son's hair, "grandmas and moms give each other little kisses sometimes, just like how you kiss your sister goodnight." Ethan frowned. No, this was different. It was, longer. Michael's throat went dry. His son had no reason to lie. And yet, the idea was so ridiculous, so impossible, that Michael brushed it off with a tight smile. "You must have seen it wrong, bud. Nothing to worry about." Ethan didn't argue. He just shrugged and pulled the covers up to his chin. "Okay, Dad. Good night." Michael turned off the light and left the room, but his mind refused to shut off. That night, Michael lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Ethan's words looping over and over. Linda and Jessica had always been close. When Michael was dating Jessica, his mother had welcomed her into the family with open arms. They would shop together, gossip over wine, even go on little weekend trips once in a while. He had never once thought anything of it. But now, something didn't sit right. The next morning, Michael sat at the kitchen table, drinking his coffee, watching Jessica as she prepared breakfast. "Hey," he said casually. "Ethan said something funny last night." Jessica, standing by the stove, didn't look up. "Yeah." Michael kept his tone light. "He asked me if it was normal for moms and grandmas to kiss like a husband and wife do." The spatula in Jessica's hand paused. Just for a second. But Michael saw it. Then, she let out a short, forced laugh. "Wow. Kids say the weirdest things, huh?" Michael studied her face. She was smiling, but it wasn't real. Her hands moved just a little too quickly as she flipped the pancakes. "What do you think he meant by that?" Michael asked, still watching her. Jessica turned, flashing him an amused look. "Michael, come on. He's 10. His imagination is wild. Maybe he saw a kiss on TV and mixed things up in his head. Maybe." But Michael wasn't buying it. Something in her reaction, that flicker of nervousness, made his stomach twist. But what was he supposed to do? Accuse his wife and his mother of something so absurd? He let it go. Or at least, he tried to. Michael wanted to forget it. Wanted to chalk it up to a child's misunderstanding. But his brain wouldn't let him. He started noticing things. Jessica and Linda whispered a lot. Whenever he entered a room, their conversation would abruptly stop. They'd glance at each other, and then Linda would quickly ask something about the kids, or Jessica would start scrolling on her phone. Jessica was always texting someone. At night, in the mornings, even at the dinner table, she was glued to her screen. Michael casually asked who she was talking to, and she laughed, waving him off. Just my mom. Linda was coming over more often than usual. Michael had always appreciated that his mother loved spending time with his kids, but now, it felt excessive. Once, Michael left work early and walked in on Jessica cooking while Linda was over. The way they immediately separated when he stepped inside sent a spike of suspicion through his chest. Michael knew paranoia wasn't good for a marriage. He knew that acting crazy could destroy a family just as fast as actual betrayal. Michael had always trusted his wife. And he had always trusted his mother. But trust dies fast when doubt takes root. For the past week, he had lived in a fog of paranoia. He wasn't eating right. He wasn't sleeping well. Every time Jessica left the house, his chest tightened with suspicion. He found himself watching her more closely, how she glanced at her phone constantly, how she hesitated before answering simple questions. Then, she made a mistake. "I'm meeting Mom for coffee," Jessica said one afternoon, slipping on her coat. Michael forced a smile. "Oh yeah? Where at?" Jessica barely looked at him. "Downtown, that little cafe by the bookstore." A normal answer. A casual answer. But Michael saw the way her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her sleeve, the way her voice wavered just a little too much. And that was it. As soon as the door shut behind her, Michael grabbed his car keys. He had to know. Michael kept a distance as he followed Jessica's car. His heart pounded, his hands sweaty on the wheel. When she parked downtown, he waited, expecting her to go into the coffee shop. But she didn't. Instead, she walked right past it. Michael's grip on the steering wheel tightened as she turned the corner, his gut twisting with something cold and ugly. Maybe she changed her mind. Maybe Linda was running late. But then, he saw her. Linda. His mother. Standing outside a hotel entrance. Michael's breath caught in his throat as Jessica walked up to her, smiling. The kind of smile she used to give him. Then they disappeared inside. Michael just sat there, staring, his body frozen. His mind screamed for an explanation, for any reason that made sense. But there wasn't one. His wife. His mother. Checking into a hotel together. The world tilted. And suddenly, Michael was moving. He barely remembered parking, barely felt his legs carrying him into the hotel lobby. The receptionist greeted him with a polite, "Can I help you, sir?" But Michael wasn't in the mood for formalities. He slapped a $100 bill onto the counter. Jessica Carter. "What room?" The receptionist hesitated. "Sir, we can't give out guest information." Another 100. The man sighed and slid a sticky note across the desk. Room 214. Michael didn't even thank him. His mind was white-hot with anger, his vision blurred with rage. He took the stairs 2 at a time. By the time he reached the door, his breath was ragged, his chest rising and falling like he had run a marathon. His hand hovered over the handle. "Don't do it. You don't want to see what's inside." But he did. He had to. Michael threw open the door. The world slowed. Jessica. Naked. Linda. His own mother. Their bodies wrapped together in an intimate embrace on the bed. The sheets tangled around them, their limbs intertwined, a scene straight out of his worst nightmare. Jessica screamed. Linda gasped, scrambling for the bedsheet, her face draining of all color. Michael stood frozen, his body ice cold, his mind unable to process what he was seeing. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. Michael. Jessica's voice was panicked. "I can explain." "Explain. Explain." His mother, the woman who had raised him, was sitting on that bed with his wife, covering her chest, begging for a chance to explain. His stomach lurched. His throat tightened. He wanted to scream, to break something, to grab anything and throw it against the wall. But he couldn't move. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was humiliation. His wife, the woman he had built a life with, was replacing him with his own mother. It wasn't just an affair. It was something disgusting. Something sick. Michael staggered backward, nearly tripping over his own feet. His heart hammered against his ribs, his ears ringing like a grenade had just gone off. You. He couldn't even speak. Jessica's face crumpled. Michael, please. But he was already turning away. Already leaving. Michael barely made it to his car before he collapsed against the door, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. His hands shook violently as he gripped the roof of the car, his entire body trembling. He felt sick. Jessica had betrayed him. His mother had betrayed him. And the worst part? They weren't even sorry. They were only sorry they got caught. Michael pressed his forehead against the cool metal of the car door, trying to push down the rage, the hurt, the disgust swallowing him whole. Everything he knew, everything he believed about his life, was a lie. He had lost his wife. He had lost his mother. And now, he had nothing left to lose. And that, he realized, made him the most dangerous man in the world. Michael didn't answer Jessica's calls. He didn't respond to her texts. She sent dozens of messages over the next few days. Please let me explain. Michael, just talk to me. It's not what you think. I still love you. But Michael had seen enough. And then came Linda. One evening, there was a knock at the door. Michael opened it to find his mother standing there, tears streaming down her face. Oh, Michael, she sobbed. Please, let's talk. She reached for his arm, but he pulled away as if her touch burned. Talk. Michael's voice was eerily calm. What exactly would we talk about, Mom? Linda flinched. It's not like that. I swear. I never meant to hurt you. Michael let out a hollow laugh. Not like that. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a dangerous whisper. Tell me, Mom, what exactly was it like? Linda's lip trembled. Michael's chest ached with disgust. The woman who had kissed his forehead as a child, who had raised him, was now in bed with his wife. I don't want to hear your excuses, he said, stepping back. Whatever this is between you two, I don't care anymore. Then, he slammed the door in her face. Linda stood there for a few moments, sobbing quietly, before she finally left. Michael locked the door behind her. They were both dead to him now. Michael expected Jessica to keep trying to apologize. But he was wrong. Instead, she went on the offensive. 2 days later, he received a thick envelope in the mail. Divorce papers. Jessica wasn't just leaving him, she was coming for everything. She claimed he was emotionally neglectful, that he was distant, that their marriage had been crumbling for years. She wanted the house. Full custody of Ethan and Lily. Alimony. Michael laughed bitterly as he read the papers. Jessica wasn't guilty. She was strategic. She was twisting the knife. And the worst part? Linda was helping her. His own mother took Jessica's side. Whispers spread through the family. Michael was the villain now. He was never home, Linda told people. He was distant, Jessica cried to friends. He didn't give her love, some neighbors gossiped. The town, which once saw Michael as a devoted husband, was slowly turning against him. And Jessica and Linda? They didn't even bother hiding anymore. Michael had one rule. Don't bring it into my house. That rule was shattered within a week. One afternoon, he came home early to grab some documents for work. As he stepped inside, he heard something upstairs. A bed creaking. Muffled moans. His stomach dropped. Slowly, he climbed the stairs, dreading what he already knew. The door to the master bedroom, his bedroom, was slightly open. He peered through the gap. And there they were. Jessica and Linda, tangled in the sheets, completely lost in each other. In the bed he had shared with his wife. In the home he had built. Michael felt like he was going to be sick. He could have stormed in. He could have dragged them out of the house. He could have burned everything down. But he did none of that. Because in that moment, standing there unseen, Michael had a realization. These two weren't just cheaters. They were parasites. Jessica had moved on before she even left him. Linda had chosen her over her own son. And now, they were taking everything, the house, the kids, his reputation. Michael walked away from the door without a sound. Because now, he had a plan. They thought they had one. But Michael wasn't just going to fight back. He was going to destroy them. The first step was evidence. Michael hired a private investigator, an old friend from college who owed him a favor. Within days, the results came flooding in. Months of hotel visits. Bank transfers between Jessica and Linda, siphoning money from their joint account. Texts between them, mocking Michael behind his back. Proof that Jessica had planned to leave him long before he caught them. And the final, most disgusting piece. This wasn't some accidental love between two women. Jessica and Linda had plotted this together. They had planned to slowly push Michael out, painting him as cold and distant so that when Jessica filed for divorce, she would get everything. Michael felt sick. They had been laughing at him. Jessica had never been the woman he thought she was. And his own mother? She had turned on him for her own twisted desires. But now, Michael was going to make them regret it. Step 1, take their money. Michael drained the shared bank account overnight. Every penny was moved into a separate legal fund, one that Jessica had no access to. When Jessica woke up and saw the balance at zero, she lost her mind. "Where is the money?" she texted. "You can't do this." Michael smiled at his phone. "Oh, but I can." Step 2, expose the affair. It was time to destroy their perfect little image. Michael compiled every piece of evidence into a neatly organized email, hotel bills, texts, screenshots, and even video recordings from the hidden cameras. Then, he sent it to everyone. Their entire family. Jessica's friends. Linda's church group. Michael's workplace, just for good measure. The fallout was immediate. Jessica's phone started blowing up with calls. Linda's friends shunned her. Michael's father, who had been divorced from Linda for years, called him and said, "I always knew she was rotten, but this. I'm disgusted." The town exploded with gossip. Jessica and Linda were now the biggest scandal in town. Step 3, take the kids. Michael knew Jessica was an unfit mother. And now, with proof of her affair and reckless behavior, he had exactly what he needed. He filed for emergency custody, presenting the evidence of her instability to the court. The judge took one look at the pile of documents and granted Michael full custody of Ethan and Lily. Jessica's reaction? She collapsed in court, sobbing. "Michael, please. You can't take them." Michael leaned in close and whispered, "You chose her over your own family. Now you have nothing." Step 4, sell the house out from under them. Jessica thought she was getting the house in the divorce. Wrong. The house was in Michael's name. And now, he sold it. Jessica and Linda were served an eviction notice within a week. They had 30 days to get out. The house, the place they had tainted with their betrayal, was no longer theirs. They had nowhere to go. They had nothing left. Step 5, the final blow. There was one last thing Michael needed to do. Confront them. Publicly. And what better way than at a family gathering? Michael walked into the restaurant, where everyone had gathered for his cousin's birthday. Jessica and Linda were there, looking nervous, knowing that everyone had received the emails. Without a word, Michael dropped a thick stack of printed documents onto the dinner table. Hotel receipts. Text messages. Bank transfers. The entire record of their betrayal. Jessica's face went pale. Linda's hands shook. Around the table, relatives started picking up the papers, reading them in horror. Michael took a deep breath and spoke calmly. You two deserve each other. But you don't deserve my kids. You don't deserve my house. And you sure as hell don't deserve my respect. The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica burst into tears. Linda looked like she wanted to disappear. Michael? Michael just smirked. He turned and walked away. Because he had won. Full custody. The house. His dignity. Jessica and Linda. They had lost everything. Shunned by family, abandoned by friends, they had no choice but to move in together. Two women who had betrayed him so deeply were now trapped with each other. Michael couldn't have planned a better ending. For the first few weeks after the divorce, Michael kept his distance. Jessica had no visitation rights, the court ruled her unstable. Ethan and Lily were safe with him. But he still heard the rumors. Jessica and Linda's relationship had started as some twisted affair, but now it was turning into a nightmare. Jessica had nowhere to go. No job, no money, nothing except Linda. And Linda? She was controlling. She treated Jessica like a possession, constantly monitoring where she went, who she talked to. The whispers grew louder. I saw Jessica at the grocery store. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Linda was yelling at her in public last week. You know. I think Jessica's finally realizing what she got herself into. Michael didn't care. They deserved each other. But then, Jessica called. It had been 6 months since Michael had spoken to Jessica. Then, one evening, his phone rang. Jessica. He almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. He picked up. What? At first, there was just silence. Then, soft crying. Michael? Her voice was small. Broken. Michael leaned against the counter, unmoved. What do you want? A shaky breath. Linda, she's not who I thought she was. Michael smirked. Ah. There it is. Jessica sniffled. She controls everything I do. She watches me constantly. I don't know what I was thinking. Michael let out a low, cruel laugh. Guess you finally saw what I saw. Jessica sobbed harder. Michael, please, Click. He hung up. And for the first time in a long time, he felt free. Michael stood on the porch, watching the sunset, a deep sense of peace settling over him. Ethan and Lily were inside, laughing at some cartoon on TV. Happy. Safe. Home. Everything that had once felt shattered was now whole again. Jessica and Linda had made their choices. And now, they were suffering the consequences. Michael had no guilt. No regrets. He had given love, trust, and loyalty. And they had thrown it away. Now, all that remained was justice.